Good morning. My name is Jordan Cardinelli, and I'd like to thank you all for coming today. It's truly great to see so many coaches dedicated to continued learning. When the TSA coaching development staff met to discuss topics for the coaches kickoff meeting, I was challenged to bring a topic that resonates with my personal journey as a coach and educator. I could have come up here and shown some fun activation games that help with physical literacy, or spoke about the merits of guided discovery through small-sided games. But as I thought about my own coaching journey, there's only one topic worth sharing in this setting: a balance between coaching the player and the person. This is a story I haven't shared with many about a young man named John. I first met John when he was just little Johnny, only 8 or 9 years old, at a day clinic. He loved football. You could see it in his eyes. I'm sure you all know the look. You see it in many of your players every day. This is a story not about how he used this love of football to better himself, although he did, as he's now off to the US on a full scholarship, but it's about a time when that magic, that look I saw in his eye, began to dwindle away. A few years after our first meeting, we met again when he joined a club I worked with. Only this time he was withdrawn and quiet. That spark was definitely gone. He was from a troubled home with a sick mother, a stepfather with a past history of violence. As a coaching staff, we were made well aware of the situation and the problems he was causing in his school and everyday home life. We did our best to foster a trusting relationship in an environment that promoted commitment, respect, and positivity. As we worked with him to become a better footballer, his mother returned to health, moved away from his abusive stepfather into a new area of the city where he began to make new friends and was showing a lot of progress in school. These were great strides for this young man, and we began to see that light in his eyes return. Fast forward a few years when I received an email from John. His class was doing a project about the positive influences in one's life. He was to reach out to those people and thank them. He wrote in detail about his difficult struggle, about his reason for loving the game, and that coming to play was an escape where he could leave his troubles, if only for a few hours a night. What surprised me most about this letter was how thankful he was to us, as how he put it, we gave him a chance to have positive relationships, mentors, and role models. Things, he says at times, he thought he would never have. As I read the email, I was overcome with joy. This boy, one time full of mistrust and angst, now full of compassion and empathy, thanking me for my small part in his transformation. As coaches, many times we can be consumed with the development of a player or the results in a run of matches and forget about the development of the person. Victories and defeats are nothing compared to what we as coaches of this beloved game can promote in terms of human and social values. If we choose, we can be a vital aid in the training of the future people in our country. John Ehrman, a former NFL player, minister, coach, and motivational speaker, speaks about being a transformational coach, using sport as a delivery system to reframe messages about the importance of positive human interaction. He writes about his definition of success. It's not based on things like wealth, accolades, or those tiny trophies we give out to the U8s, but about the quality of our relationships and the imprint we leave on others, the capacity to show and be loved, and the mark our legacy leaves. For a moment, think about football's greatest legends. We remember them not only because of the trophies they won, but for the mark they left in our game. We recently lost Johan Cruyff, who was a great player and won everything there is to win in football. But what is he remembered most for? I believe it's the difference he made in coaching methodology and the new coaches he inspired to create this fantastic football we love. To become a transformational coach, we must first identify which values we want to demonstrate and instill in our players. Every coach will be different. I know Barcelona uses a heart anagram. If there's some teachers in the room, they'll be familiar with the tribes analogy, while still others may use the 5 C's. Here are some of mine: responsibility and accountability, honesty, commitment, trust, positivity, passion and pride, confidence, respect, self-awareness, courage, the willingness to compete, and belonging and teamwork. Once you've defined your values, the question then becomes how to find teachable moments or when to construct them. They're all around us and present themselves in every training session and match. If you look for them, you can find them everywhere. In a training session, you might drive home accountability by using peer-on-peer coaching, encouraging your mates to listen and always give their best. Or maybe if they work in groups of 3s and give them a task to go away and 2 of them will work and the 3rd one will coach. And it'll be your job to then coach all of the coaches. You might want to encourage teamwork by letting them plan the session in small groups and then run different parts of it, using small fun games like 4-team tug of war. You can improve their willingness to compete by playing lots of different games with different numbers. Sometimes they have more players, sometimes they have less. Using things like secret scoring, letting one team know they're up 2-0 while telling the other team they're down 4-0. You can do things like manufacture teams' comebacks. Maybe they're down by 3 goals and you give them 3 phantom penalties until they're back into the game, and then really highlight that team's work rate and discuss the reasons they were successful. You might ask the players to be responsible. Things like putting equipment away after session or packing their own bags. A little challenge we use at times is ask the players to pack their bags on Thursday night for a Friday match in training. When they show up to training, you don't have the match, you apologize and tell them it'll be on Monday, so make sure you pack their bag again. On Monday, the players that show up with their game kit packed away in their bag get to play. Other players have to take part in a training session. Believe me, you'll have players packing their own bags after that. On match day, teachable moments on match day are found in almost every moment. If you want to encourage respect, why not have the players shake hands not only after the match, but before? To promote fair play, every time your player commits a foul, stress the need for them to give them their hand, tell them, I'm sorry I got there late, it won't happen again, and help them up. To encourage teamwork, why not have them come up with their own starting lineup or their own substitutions for the match? At halftime, they could also problem solve in small groups or in a large group and talk about what's going right or what they need to fix to have more success in the second half. To improve their confidence, give them challenges that may not be based upon results. Little Johnny, can you play 3 passes with your left foot in this half? I know some clubs help with the motivation of their players by showing them game film or team game film to help anchor and encourage good thoughts. If your team struggles with positivity, maybe have all the players who are subbed off get a big whiteboard or a sheet of paper and write down one positive thing they see their teammates doing out on the field. After the game, you can discuss them all and hopefully you'll have a full sheet of positive things. You can ask them to cheer on their teammates if they're off on the field. If they're the youngest U8s, the loudest player will win some sort of reward at the end of the match. You can find moments that are not in training or in matches, but just an individual time on their own. Players can make strength and weakness charts where they go and they list all their most positive attributes as a player or list things that they can continue to work on to get better. You can use things like visualization to help. Have the players go home and write down what they visualize before training or before matches. Things that can anchor positive thoughts when they come to the park. You can use a youth player code of conduct, just determining whichever values you feel are most important. Have all the players read these values and then sign it, almost like a contract. And every time things go a bit wayward, you can focus back on the code of conduct and hopefully rein them in again. As coaches, the way you teach or portray these values become incredibly important, as you need to be a role model for players, encouraging them, supporting them, sharing with them, providing them heroes, not critics for them to look to. In some cases, like the not so little anymore Johnny, maybe the only ones they have. The character needs to be supported through environments that challenge and demand social values. This helps prepare our young people to become more responsible, compassionate, and accepting people in our communities. Think about the role football plays in the global landscape. It engages more people worldwide than any other game. It crosses gender, race, and religion. The World Cup final was broadcast to over 1 billion TVs, while the Super Bowl to only 100 million. Once we relate the power we carry as coaches, the question then becomes what values will we pass on to our players? I'm not saying you shouldn't try to create skilled players who dominate 1v1 situations or can hit a 40-yard rocket into the back of the net, but challenge yourself to create something more. Redefine what it means to be a coach. I'll leave you with one final quote from John Ehrman. I think the great myth in youth athletics is that sport builds character. It does not, unless a coach intentionally teaches and models it. We must take every opportunity to work every day to be a transformational coach, to help young people become adults of empathy and integrity who will be responsible to change the world for good. I want to just thank you all again for coming. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the presentations. If you'd like to contact me, all my details can be found on the next slide.